Welcome to the summary video of National 5 Biology Unit 2. Today we're looking at Key Area 2, Control and Communication. Because this is a larger key area, we're going to split this into two parts, the nervous system and hormones. So we're going to start off in this video looking at the nervous system. So first of all, the nervous system is made up of two parts. The first and very important part is the central nervous system, sometimes abbreviated to the CNS, which is made up of both your brain and your spinal cord. The central nervous system and the peripheral nerves, all these other nerves around your body, complete your entire nervous system, but your central nervous system is only made up of the brain and spinal cord. There are three parts of the brain that you need to know. You should know how to identify them and what they actually do. The first is down at the bottom of the brain, and at the top of the spinal cord is the medulla. This controls breathing and heart rate. It controls unconscious responses that you do not need to think of. The second part, which is this outlying part at the side, at the back, is called the cerebellum, and that is responsible for balance and muscular coordination. Finally, the part at the top, the wrinkled area that looks more like a stereotypical brain, is called your cerebrum. And the cerebrum is responsible for conscious thoughts, such as memory, reasoning, and intelligence. Throughout your nervous system is made up of neurons, and through neurons, information is passed along through electrical impulses. This is going to be different from hormones that we'll look at in the next video. There are three main neurons that we need to know though. There's the sensory neuron, the interneuron, and the motor neuron. And if you want to try and remember the order of this, think SIM, S-I-M, sensory intermotor. Essentially, the sensory neuron sends electrical nerve impulses from sense organs. These are organs such as your skin picking up touch or your eyes picking up light. Information is then sent electrically through the sensory neurons to your interneurons. Your interneurons are found within your central nervous system, which hopefully you remember is your brain and your spinal cord. And this connects then to the motor neurons. Now, motor is responsible for movement, and this sends a nerve impulse from the interneurons in the central nervous system to an effector. An effector can be either a muscle, such as movement, like I said previously, or it could be a gland that releases a hormone. And this effector enables a response to whatever the sensory input was. So again, just to show you this process once more, your body is full of these sense organs which have sensory receptors, and they detect stimuli or a stimulus such as light, sound, chemicals, touch from the environment. Once that stimulus is picked up, the electrical signal is sent from the sensory neurons to the interneurons, like we said, in the central nervous system. And then once that information is processed in your central nervous system, brain and spinal cord, the interneurons send a message on to the motor neurons, which create this response in an effector, such as a muscle or a gland. There is another response that we'll talk about as well, which is to protect your body from harm, and this is called a reflex. The reflex arc is rapid and it is automatic. So if you think of flinching away from something painful or from heat or coughing or blinking, you don't think about this. It's an automatic unconscious response to protect your body from harm. So again, we see this sensory, inter and motor and neural pathway. However, you'll see here in the diagram, a reflex reaction doesn't go through the brain, although it still goes through the central nervous system. It goes through the spinal cord. The reason for this is because this is automatic. You're literally not thinking about it, and it has to be fast to protect you from harm. So in order for reflex reactions to be fast, they bypass the brain and they travel through the spinal cord, but still go from sensory, inter and motor neurons. Finally, all these neurons have a gap between them, and the gap between each neuron is called a synapse. Now, for information to pass from one neuron to the other, the electrical impulse, once it hits the end of a neuron, has to cross the synapse. That impulse and that message crosses the synapse through chemicals. These chemicals are called neurotransmitters, which then transfer the message from one neuron to the other across the synapse. That is your summary of the nervous system, The next part of this video covers hormones, and that makes up the rest of this key area.